All right, y'all. We are live. Are y'all ready to kick this thing off?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's do it.
KTTV, giving you what you need. Motivation, education unleashed. H-Town representing, we forever keep it rolling. Join the conversation with inspirational stories. Thought-provoking, feel that energy. Kendrick Thomas aiming to lift the community. True indeed, tune in, come and see. Giving you what you need. KTTV, let's go. KTTV.
Hey, I know y'all weren't ready for that. What to do, KTTV? This is KT, and I'm coming at you live with I guess we could say this is the welcome back Catyra episode of Education Unleashed. We've been taking a break. We've been putting together a few nonprofits. Been inside of the work, y'all. And so when you're inside, sometimes it's hard to get back to a lot of those things outside. But tonight, we are back. So how y'all doing tonight, ladies?
Doing well.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Look, so on tonight's episode, I want to debut my new co-host. You know, as I was telling Miss Polland, sometimes because I would set up the podcast so early, I would have a guest who 2 months ago, they was ready. But now something that came up. And so I would just say, you know what? Tonight we're going to cancel the show because it was just me. And I tried talking for an hour. It just didn't work out for me. So I said, you know what? The show must go on. And so now I got somebody to talk to. Yeah. Co-host, Dr. Wise, educator, former principal, education guru. How you doing tonight, Dr. Wise?
I'm doing very well, and thank you. I appreciate this so much. Yes, look, I'm excited.
I'm ready to take that. I'm ready to take that ride. And then for our interview tonight, that's gonna be riding with us. She's kind of the same co-host too. You just co-hosting tonight. Dr. Wise just co-hosting everything. So we got Miss Catyra Polland. I'm just, you know, when I came into this, I said, I think I'm gonna get my Shannon Sharp on. And you know how that boy read everything. So I pulled up the bio. Do you mind if I dive into that thing tonight, Ms. Polland?
No, sir. Go right ahead.
Oh, it says, welcome. I'm Catyra Polland, the CEO, founder of Love for Words, a 9-time published author, editor, copywriter, poet, and speaker. I am also alumna of the University at Buffalo and the University at Albany. I help creative people with professional editing services while supporting their vision. In this capacity, I serve as a mentor and supporter of each writer's creation. Wow. Yeah. So that's how you doing.
Wow.
Let's go with the honors. The point of light honoree. The Richard S. Holden ACES Diversity Fellow. Rochester Business Journal 40 under 40. Cystic Fibrosis Rochester's finest honoree. Athena International finest. Rochester Business Journal Elevating Women honoree. And the Urban League of Rochester Legacy Award.
Wow.
When you got it done, you got to get it done. All right, yes. So Ms. Polland, how you feeling tonight? And thank you for taking this time.
I'm doing very well, and thank you for having me again. I know it's been a while since I was on here last, so I'm excited to have another conversation and glad that you're back doing your podcast again.
Look, I'm glad because, you know, in my head, it was always, they say, okay, only a few people is going to stay consistent and be doing this and remain. And I got it. Like I went hard for maybe like three years straight, but then it was something that was bigger. But now the thing is I did that and I get to go back and now I get to create an episode that will be dedicated to only that mission. You know, so it all works out. So yeah. I guess for tonight, as we get back into things, of course, we'll do our news. We have our interview. So we'll do our interview with you. Then we also got a few fast questions for you, rapid fire questions. So I didn't send them. You just got to be ready.
Oh, okay.
All right. Of course, we also will do our parent teacher corner because we know the importance as educators of strengthening that parent home, school, teacher, community connection, all of that engulfed. All right, so what we'll do now is let me get ready to share this screen, and we'll jump into a little news, because if you have not been in Texas and you don't know what's going on, we finna talk about it. All right, but first I got to be able to present it. I ain't had this many people on here before.
Hot off the press.
Hot off the press. All right, so let's get into it. Y'all tell me if y'all can see this here. Can y'all see that?
Not yet.
Okay, so it's not coming up. All right, y'all, we may have to skip this news for tonight, because technology is a great thing when it works, but when it don't.
When it works.
You must adapt, because I see it. So what I'll do is, I can't share it, but what I'll do is I'll talk about it a little bit. And so what this article says is, and first off, before we get into that, I'll be back. So in this article, if you don't know, Texas has been going to war with each other over school vouchers, the effectiveness, the tearing apart that it may do, either way how you look at it. Greg Abbott said, you know what? Y'all denied me 2 years ago. What he did was went on a campaign in between to get everybody out of office who denied him, right? Who went against it. He was successful on getting out a few more people. And so here we are again. The Senate passed the bill last time. The Senate has just passed it this time, moving on to the House, where it got shut down last time. But remember what I said. He was working hard to put a few more people on his side into that situation. So that's a recap. Now, as we get into this article, I want to give a shout out to Austin American Statesman. They says, what are school vouchers in Texas? What to know about Senate Bill 2. So Texas Senate easily passed the school voucher bill Wednesday night. The Senate bill would allow 2 families to use taxpayer dollars to fund a child's education at an accredited private school. Senate Bill 2 would allow, once again, families to use taxpayer dollars to fund a child education at an accredited private school. That's your money if you're in Texas. That's my money. And let's talk some more. Through similar legislation, though similar legislation fell through 2 years ago, Republican lawmakers seem hopeful that SB 2 will pass. Supporters of the bill claim the program would assist low-income families and students with disabilities, while opponents warn of consequences for public schools and rural students. So what is a school voucher and how it works? School vouchers promote what is often called school choice, and they give families access to public money to pay for private school tuition and some homeschooling costs. Opponents of the school vouchers, and we know AFT, they worry such programs will sap public school funding and more students opt for private education. Last month, Texas AFT President Zeph Capo expressed concerns about how this would impact the public school districts throughout the state that are already facing deficit budgets. And so to sum that up, and Dr. Wise, you've been in that seat, you've dealt with the budget, with the numbers, but it boils down to the less students you have in that school, the less funding you are getting. So Dr. Wise, talk to us a little bit about that, and what do you think with this article that I just talked about?
Well, I've been following this for a while now, and I have kind of mixed emotions about it. My greatest concern is, how did we get here? And I just believe that when it comes to children of color and children from marginalized backgrounds, did we do what we supposed to do to educate them? And African American students still lag behind their white peers But my other concern about the passing of the school choice is there going to be enough money so that children from poverty or marginalized background, can their parents afford to put them in the better schools? I believe, what is it, Doc, 10,000? And if you have a disability, you get an additional 2,000, something to that effect. If I am a parent and I want to put my child in this private school that's supposed to be one of your better school, can I afford that? That's what concerns me. And if someone would answer that for me, I would probably feel better about these vouchers. I just think that, yes, we could have done better, honestly, in educating our children. We are still lagging behind, and that's unacceptable. So I know how that is the reason why we are here.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I agree with that. You know, when you look at a problem, when you're looking for the solution, you always got to get to the root cause of that problem, right? And so school choice is, hey, where did it really come from? Why do people think that school choice will be so effective and so important that they've been fighting for years? Ms. Polland, you've been in New York doing your thing. You hear what's going on down here in Texas. What are your thoughts on that? You got any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I do think school choice is important. I mean, I can see both sides. I mean, private schools are very expensive, and you know, I don't have children, so I can see that if you weren't a parent and you're, you know, paying for someone else's children to go to a private school, I can see the upset about that. Here in New York, we have charter schools. You have charter schools.
Yeah, charters, yes.
Yeah, so, you know, a lot of parents do choose to send their children to charters, and that presents issues for public schools. So I don't know. I just see both sides of it. So I guess I'm not swayed either way, but I do feel like school choice is important and that we shouldn't be limited just because, you know, of our income or zip code or things like that. So it's a really, it's a sticky situation.
Sticky situation. Hey, I can dig it. I understand totally. All right. Well, I wanted to say thank you all for putting in on that. I think we do have to keep watch, because if this makes it past the House, we got some planning to do. We got some real planning to do, because yeah. You know, I believe in so like in the areas I serve, I believe in the community. I believe that their parents will see the bigger picture of making sure that we're all in this together versus moving. But I do know that there will be some people who lose a bunch of kids to this, and so that is the other side of it. Like, what happens with that funding for that school? All right. Well, I think we will keep watch. We will take a quick break, and when we get back, get your notebook out, get your pencils, get your pens, get your notes on your Mac, all that out, because I believe Ms. Polland got something good to say. So
I'm ready.
Hey, me too. We'll be right back.
You see the drip, yeah, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drip, yeah, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the You see the drip, yeah, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drip, yeah, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the
Welcome back to another episode. Well, reunited, and it feels so good. Episode of Education Unleashed podcast. I am here with my co-host, Dr. Wise. How you doing, Doc?
Hi.
And our guest for tonight, Miss Catyra Polland, author, editor, book, world liaison, all of those pieces. VIP. Before we go, I want to say shout out to Dr. Jacko. who is in New York, education, doing her thing. But Ms. Catyra,
Yes.
once again, thank you again
Thank
for
you.
spending a little time with us tonight, because we
Thank you.
know that the importance of getting your story out. A lot of people do it. They want to self-publish. They don't
Yeah.
know how. A lot of people say, I'm just going to put it on Amazon. And as I was self-publishing, I learned that once you put that, like that ISBN, really, you can't do too much with it once you. So like, I need to call somebody like you so that I can kind of get my life together, right?
Absolutely.
So before we get started, though, I just want to do a check-in. And so, man, it's real out here. How have you been doing? And how have you been staying sane in this go world?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I don't watch the news.
Hey,
So that keeps me sane.
yeah, I agree with that.
You know, every time I do catch a snippet, it's always something negative. So I choose not to engage with it. Of course, I have different ways of staying in the know, but I could never be one of those people that's just like watching the news all day, because it's really a loop of, you know, destruction. And, you know, I mean, there's some spots of brightness, but overall the news is something I stay away from. So that's one way I'm staying sane. And also making sure I'm carving out time for me to do what feels good for me and to me. You know, I've done a lot of volunteering and giving back and things like that, community service, but at this time I'm redirecting to make sure that Catyra's cup is filled and that I'm well. And taking care of my well-being is a priority for me. So that is definitely keeping me sane, for sure.
Most definitely. Well, for tonight, I do want to get a little deeper dive into some of the work that you are doing. And so I guess I'll just come out the gate, like the journey into writing and editing, going through that process. I know it's not something I would want to do every day. And so for you, what was that defining moment that made you say, you know what, this is what I want to do as a professional?
Yeah, so I started editing in 2016, and then I launched my business in 2017. So I had worked with a few authors. I had a few authors on my roster, and, you know, I gave them sample edits and had conversations with them and worked with them. And once I was done with the editing process, seeing their reaction to what I offered, to the recommendations, the edits, the revision, is really what sealed the deal for me and made me want to pursue editing, you know, as a business owner, knowing that they valued what I had to say, that they felt that what I proposed or that I recommended made their book better, that they felt that although I was offering edits, that their voice was still maintained, that I wasn't rewriting their work, that who they are as people still came from those pages, and it didn't sound like something that I wrote. So being able to read someone's story and make it better, and for them to say this is so much better because of what you've done or what you've shared, really showed me that I was operating in one of my gifts, and that is something that I should pursue, you know, for the long haul, something I should do long term. And the majority of the clients that I work with are Black authors. So, you know, Black authors have shared with me that they work with editors who aren't a part of the culture, and they've had work rewritten and whitewashed and things like that. So that's another reason why I do this work, to make sure that when we write our stories, that they're published the way they need to be. We're not worried about having language changed or, again, rewritten or otherwise not authentic. So that was also another reason why I, you know, continue to become an editor, to make sure that I can welcome authors into the publishing world without them feeling they had to change who they were or the way that they were writing to appeal to the masses or to larger society, etc. So that was also another reason I did decide to pursue editing. I mean, I started writing poetry in middle school, so I've always, loved reading and writing, so it was a natural transition. But once I was able to work with clients, that really just showed me is something I should pursue.
And with those stories, and I don't know if you've run into this throughout your work, but I'm sure because I know people like this. So I have this wonderful story, right? And but I feel like because of the things that it talks about and the way I may be portrayed, or either just how it would like where people would know about my past, I say I'm not good enough to publish this, so I can't do this. So they get all the way there and then they stop. What advice do you have for writers like that?
Yeah, for writers who might be hesitant to publish, I would say, be clear about why you're writing. So a lot of the clients that I work with are writing memoirs about their own lives, which of course, our lives include tragedy and trauma and things like that. So they're writing their stories to encourage other people. So when you think about the bigger picture, that should give you the motivation to move forward. That it's not so much about you, although writing a memoir about yourself can be therapeutic. And yes, you're a part of that. But when you think about the bigger impact that you have on others, that is usually the deciding factor. When people are like, okay, I've already written it, I've come this far, I wanted to write it to get it out, so why don't I go ahead and just get it out? So I would say that it is a comfort thing. So you might write it and you might not publish it for a few years. I have clients who come to me who've had their book written for 2 decades. I'm not saying you should wait that long, but everyone, publishes and does everything in life at their own time. So there's really no right or wrong. Don't feel pressured to do it, but, seek people who will give you encouragement. The team that you're working with to write your book should be a part of the team that's encouraging you. So your editor, your publisher, if you have beta readers, those people should also provide some type of encouragement that make you say, yes, I need to move forward with this. And you can continue to also sit with yourself to reevaluate. Maybe when you first started writing, your goal was to publish it because you wanted to influence or impact or inspire others. But by the time you're done, maybe you decided, I'm fulfilled in just having this written down and I don't want to publish it anymore. And that's okay. And then even for people who write and don't publish, there are a lot of people who journal. So just because you've written it doesn't mean you have to share it. That's optional. Some people do, some people don't. So just, you have to do what works best for you. There's no right or wrong. And reevaluate. You might change your mind, and that's okay too.
And outside of that issue, when you're thinking about new writers, first time, like, man, look, when I tell you, I was so gung ho. Like I started writing in I was coming back from Denver and I had like a nice little wait time in the airport, and that's how my book started. But I wish I would have had someone to ask this question, and so I could maybe skip the line a little bit. But for the common mistakes that you see first-time authors make, what are they, and what are some ways that they can avoid the ones that you name?
Yeah, a big one that I see, especially in memoir, is withholding information or not sharing enough information. So if you're going to write a story, if you're going to write a story about something that you've been through, then you should be telling your readers what you've been through. So there's a work, it's a manuscript I'm reviewing, and it's just about like trials and tribulations in life, and there are a lot of instances where the person is referencing, I went through this during a difficult time in my life, and then this also happened, and that was really, really tough, and this was really, really hard. So again, what was really hard? Because the readers will want that information. So again, when you're writing a personal story, just make sure you're giving that backstory. Like, why are you mentioning that you made it through this tough time if you're not going to talk about that tough time? So if you're not going to expand on it, then what's the point of mentioning it? So the other thing is keeping the reader in mind. So you know what that tough time is because it's your life, but your readers don't know that. So you want to make sure you're giving your readers a reason to continue reading. So if you have these vague statements about what you've been through, the reader's gonna be like, okay, I don't know what they've been through. How is this gonna help me? Because I don't know, what advice to take for them. Was it domestic violence? Was it, and you don't have to detail names or anything like that, but was it child abuse? Was it divorce? Because maybe the reader wants to connect with someone who's been divorced, but because you're not talking about what you've gone through, they don't know that. So it's like, well, I picked up this book for help, but she keeps saying she went through this and she went through that and this. I don't know what these things are. So why am I reading this? So just make sure that you're giving your readers information and not leaving them hanging. Think about when you're reading something and you don't get what you want out of it. What do? You stop reading it. So you want your readers to keep reading, and, engage with them. So even when I put that in the margins, it's not that I'm just asking to be nosy. It's your readers are going to want to know this. And you need to be telling them this if you want them to keep reading. So that's a really big one, especially a memoir that people don't share a lot. I can recognize that it's uncomfortable. If you're talking about something tragic or traumatic, there's only so far you want to go. So I acknowledge that, and it's not easy. But again, you have to keep your reader in mind when you're writing for the public. So
most definitely. And is there anything else? I know you said sharing enough information. Is there any of those small nuances that they don't think about that has become a problem that you've seen?
Yeah, sometimes. So sometimes there's like contradictory information. So like in one instance, I had a client, two of the characters were in the car together. And when the scene started, so to speak, they were sitting in silence. But then like a few paragraphs down, they mention a song in the background. So it's either there's music or there's not. So sometimes we have those inconsistencies or even like redundancies where there might be a gender reveal that was in chapter 3, and then you have the exact same reveal in chapter 15. So it's like, where do you want this? You can't have the same reveal in 2 places. And again, these are honest mistakes, and people are like, oh, I didn't even catch that. So a lot of it is things like that, or even the character opens the book with blue eyes, and then through the book, you're saying she has brown eyes. So how are you explaining that? How did that happen? Why did that happen? So paying attention to things like that. And then on a deeper level, there's the cultural editing piece. So I work with a client, he's not Black, but he was writing about, or he mentioned Black people, and he happened to use the term ghetto in a way that was synonymous with Black people. So I posed a question in the margins, like, this presents this way. You may want to be aware of this. It may come across as offensive. So even being sensitive about the language that you're using, and not necessarily sensitive, because you don't have to censor what you're saying, just recognizing that it might be offensive to people. There might be readers who read something you write that could offend them, and maybe that wasn't your intention. So being careful about the language that you're using as well, on the cultural side of it, especially if you're not a part of the group that you're talking about in your work.
Most definitely. Wow. Yeah, I've never like, those are the nuances. Like, is when you caught up in the story, you just writing. And so, but once again, that's why it's so important to make sure I call somebody like you.
Yes.
Because I probably started with a boy and ended with a girl. I don't know. It is.
Yeah.
Oh, man, Dr. Watts, you got anything over there?
I was just sitting here wondering about AI. And what role does AI play in your space, and how
Yeah.
does it affect your business?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of people, I know a lot of people write their books in AI, and people probably do, well, people do editing in AI too. So I know there's a surge in people who feel hiring an editor is not necessary. So they bypass the editor altogether. So there will be a decrease in hiring an editor among some people, but I also recognize that people do know the value of a human editor. So I don't, let that discourage me in any way. There's always going to be some form of competition or alternate way of getting editing. The clients that I work with, thus far, all of them have presented that the manuscripts have been written by them. I know that some of my colleagues, like in the editing world, they are asking clients before they work with them, has this been, have you used AI on your manuscript, just to probably save themselves, to make sure they're aware. I haven't incorporated that. That is something, I'm open to incorporating, just so that I'm aware that some of it is AI generated. I do recommend that, just so, as a professional, you're aware that what you're working on is AI generated. I know there's a lot of changes around AI. I'm not fully sure about the copywriting of AI material as of yet. I think those types of policies are still unfolding, but as someone in the publishing world, definitely keeping my eye open to that and being aware that a lot of people are using AI. So yeah, I haven't had direct experience with someone who's, an author who's come and said to me directly, this is AI generated. But I would imagine once I begin, or if I decide to start asking that beforehand, or when I start asking, I'll encounter that more and do my research about how to move forward with that, to make sure there's no liabilities on my part. And hopefully they've also done their research as well.
Yeah, because that is a full extra piece into the wheelhouse of okay, it's like, dang, it's a third person in the mix almost. So you got to say, okay, well, I can copyright you, but what about the stuff that they wrote? And you almost got to go back and try to mix and mingle.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
And
so that
is. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doc.
No. I'm listening. What'd you say, Doc?
I was thinking, cost-wise, but my grandson, by the way, I hope he's on here because he loves to write. He has an MBA and he works in the business world, but he loves to write. And so I sent him the link, but he said, Grandma, you need to write your memoir. I said, he said, I'll write it for you. I love to write. And I said, how much? And he said, $10,000. I said, no, my memoir is that important. I really said, well, I'm going to do it in AI, right? I did. You don't came down in the price, right? Because I'm going to do it in doing the AI. But for those parents and teachers who trying to encourage children to love reading, what practical strategies do you recommend?
Yeah. I just wanted to backtrack on the AI. So AI can be used obviously to write content, but I mean, there's other ways to also paraphrase your content. So like Quillbot, you can write it. And then if you want to see an alternate way, okay, I wrote this, but let me see if there's a different way that I like better. You can also get, feedback on what you did produce versus just having AI create everything for you. So there's pros and cons for everything. So I just wanted to back up and say that. I know some people, present AI as all bad. I mean, AI is not new. I think it's another iteration of it, but there are certainly pros to AI as well. But we got to figure out which is which, right? So yes, to answer your question about encouraging children and reading, I think the most important thing is making sure you're connecting them with material that is interesting and relevant to them. So I have a 1-year-old nephew, so he's not reading yet. I do read to him. So I have books on my dining room table. He's just tall enough where he can grab them. So, he'll look through them and he'll bring me a book. So I'll read the book that he brings to me. I don't have to choose the book for him. He can't say which one he wants to read, but he can definitely look at the pictures and say, well, this looks interesting. So I'll read that to him. And as he gets older, one thing I've noticed is he likes to dance. So as he gets older, if he continues to show that interest, I can buy him books about dancing, instruments, music, musicians, things like that. So I believe that is the number one priority. I know that was when I was in school, there weren't a lot of materials that appealed to me. I mean, a lot of the books were, about people who didn't look like me, who were oppressing people who did look like me, etc. So if you're putting this type of material in front of kids, things that are not appealing to them and also offensive to them and their families and the people who look like them, you're not going to foster a love for reading, because they're going to associate reading with disappointment, shame, anger, frustration, etc. So I believe it's extremely important for educators and parents and mentors to make sure that we are paying attention to what the kids want to read. So that's what I would say is number one. Figuring out what they like and getting them connected to that, so that at least there's a balance. So obviously there are going to be times that they'll be reading things they don't like, but they will not develop a hate for reading, because they know that they have access to books and material that they love as well.
Most definitely. And I guess as we get ready to land this plane, when you think about going back over your career, the beginning of it, as you would have first-time author, what is one piece of advice you wish someone had given you at the start of your journey in writing and editing?
Not really sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. One thing I will say is, in my decision to edit, I didn't have like formal mentors. So I would say that is something I would have liked to have. So I did research, I read books, and I knew a few people in the publishing world, but I didn't have like somebody to guide me along that journey to learn, okay, yes, you want to be an editor, but what type of editor? Things like that, and diving deeper into it. So I would say that is something that I would have appreciated, coming into this work.
Most definitely. And so just wanted to go back and get a few people here. So we had a Supreme said agreed. I can't remember the question, but Courtney B came through and shouted out. Wow. So then just going through laughing. Hey, that's what it's about. Please, let's keep having a good time. So what we'll do is I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna do our rapid fire. And then after that, that's when I want you to kind of share all the information, because I know a few people who are, like I say, in this game, and they're really trying to get it in. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to another episode of Education Unleashed. I am Kendrick Thomas with my co-host,
Dr. Cynthia Wise.
Thank you. Hey, I have my guest for tonight.
I was reading my notes.
Hey, thank you. Be informed. But Miss Polland just got through breaking it down for us on how she goes through the editing, some great information for our first-time writers. And so right now, what I want to do is jump into our rapid fire section. And when we get into this, like, you know how these last questions, you just thought about them and you came out with these answers?
Yeah.
You can't do this time. Let's go, rapid fire.
Go hard, or go home, go home, go hard, or go home.
All right, here we go. Don't think about it. Just give it to me. Pen and paper or typing? How do you prefer to write?
Typing.
Wow, old school. What is your favorite book of all time?
Oh, there's so many of them.
See, you thinking about it. Don't think about it.
Many,
I want that first one. Hey, pass.
Yeah, too many.
All right, early bird or night owl when it comes to writing?
Early bird.
Early bird.
Yes.
Oh, so you try to get in by 5 in the morning, get to work.
Yeah.
Get some coffee.
Yeah, then be done.
If
Done
you
for
could
the
have
day.
dinner with any author, past or present, who would it be?
Oh, Tupac.
Oh,
Wow, that was a good.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
One word to describe your editing style.
Authentic.
Ah, good one.
Love
Yeah.
it.
What's your go-to? Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Order when working on a book. Got to get the coffee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Creamer, sugar.
Self-publishing or traditional publishing? One has to go.
Self-publishing.
Which one?
Self.
Self. You
Yes.
say no. You want it to go.
Which one has to go?
Self-publishing.
I say one of them got to go.
Oh,
Self-publishing or
traditional.
traditional. Just do
Yeah.
it yourself.
Yeah.
That's why I was double checking on that because I was like, I know
Pay
you
that
got
money.
it over there. Hey. All right. Favorite childhood book that inspired you?
I'm sorry. Repeat.
Favorite childhood book that inspired you?
Fred. I can't think of his last name, but he did like the Disney stories, but all the characters were black. So Rapunzel, Sleeping Beauty. I don't remember his last name. Fred something.
That was deep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
all the characters were black. Beautiful illustrations. I just can't remember his last name.
That's okay. We'll Google it. If you were in the literary world, what career would you have chosen?
I wanted to be a judge when I was little.
Wow. I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Oh,
I can see that.
yeah. All right. And lastly, last question. What is one piece of advice you give to your younger self?
Embrace it or change it.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Embrace it. You got two choices.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
All right. I'll take that, child. All right. Well,
Love it.
that was our rapid fire. Yeah. Thank you so much for going through that. I got one question that came from Ms. Supreme. She said this may have been covered. Sorry if so, but what type of degree does an editor need?
There's no answer to that. So I don't have an editing degree. I've done several editing classes. There are editing certificates. A lot of editors didn't necessarily major in English. So there is no specific requirement of becoming an editor other than, editing, learning, deciding what type of editing you want to do. So you do not have to, have those certifications in editing to be successful, to be good at it, etc. So it really depends on what you want to do. Some people just feel better saying I have a certificate in editing. Obviously, that is, a selling point, a unique selling point for you as an editor to be able to say that you've done that. So there are definitely certificates out there, but the answer is there's no specific degree that is required to become an editor. The other piece is, of course, a command of the language that you're editing in, but official education, not so much. So like my master's is in criminal justice and my undergrad is sociology and Spanish. So
You was almost that judge.
Just love what you do. Yeah.
Right.
So if you stop, you just pick right back up and go and get your judge afterwards.
Right.
Let's go. All right. So, and lastly, she said, nice. Oh, the Tupac. Hey, All right. So now, I want to say thank you for taking that time out to really just give us some of that great information. How do we find you? How do we contact you? And just learn more about the work that you do?
Yes, and thank you for having me again. So yes, if you want more information, you want to know more about editing, set up a consultation, etc., you can visit my website. It's love4words.com. So you can go right on my page. You can email me. It's Poland@love4words.com. My phone number is also, my office line is on there, 585-210-8192. So feel free to reach out to me. I do have social as well. So you can find me on Instagram under my name. I'm also on LinkedIn under my name. So feel free to connect there too.
Hey, getting it in. All right. Well, what we'll do, y'all, is we'll take a quick break. And then we will come back and get into our parent teacher corner before we get to wrap this thing up. So we'll be right back. And big shout out to shameless plug. Everything you've seen on these commercial breaks is all at kttv.com. I'm sorry, I had to do it. BET Awards, had to get it in. All right, now let's get into our parent teacher corner. Oh, I love that little girl. All right, so let's get to work, y'all. And tonight, parent teacher corner, we love to bridge the gap between home and the school to create stronger partnerships for student success. Today's topic is all about building that winning partnership between the parents and the teachers. So whether you're a parent looking for ways to support your child's education or a teacher seeking to strengthen relationships with families, this part is packed with valuable insights for that. So what I'll do is I'll be covering 5 key strategies that can transform how parents and teachers work together, focusing on communication, involvement, and trust building. Because at the end of the day, and I think Dr. Wise would agree with this,
At the end of the day,
we all have the same goal, which is to make this baby successful.
that's right.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. And so the first step for this is to establish open and honest communication, right? So what we want to do is set clear expectations at the beginning of the school year. Use multiple channels, just like Catyra did. You email, go to the app, meetings, show up, y'all. Curriculum night, parent teacher, show up, stay connected, and then encourage two-way feedback for both parents and teachers to feel heard on both sides. Dr. Wise, Ms. Polland, anything to add to that?
The only thing that I would add, Doc, when you said setting the clear expectations, is that those expectations should be written. It should be in a contract. You may have heard of it called the homeschool compact, with that homeschool connection. And what is expected of the teacher, the students, the parents, and administrator. If you're going to be clear, I just think they should be written, and everyone should review those, have a discussion, sign that contract. And teachers, I would recommend that teachers put the contract in the student's classroom portfolio. Parents get a copy of it, and not just stick it there so it can just collect dust, but reference that whenever that contract is being breached. The teacher, so you remember when we agreed and that you're going to behave this way, or you're going to do this, that, and the third. So that's the only thing that I would add under setting those clear expectations.
Most definitely makes perfect sense to me. Write it down. Like you say, that compact goes on every year. You got it everywhere.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and make sure that we honoring that. I agree with that. Okay. For our next one, encourage parental involvement beyond homework, right? So that goes again with attending those school events, parent-teacher conferences, volunteer when possible, support learning at home by reinforcing key concepts. We always know that we have that certain group of parents that stay inside their parent center, right? But that's because not only are they trying to learn languages, they're also learning other skills, but they want to know, how is this math being done so that I can reinforce that. So I do understand that that is important. And lastly, we want to show children that education is a priority through engagement. I know it's important to me, or well, as a matter of fact, it's important to me because I know it's important to my mom, right? Because she always up here. I used to tell my football players, if getting to this place is on time is important to you, it's going to be important to mama, and vice versa. So anything to add to that? We'll start with you, Ms. Poe.
I didn't have anything to add to that, no.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Most definitely.
That's a good one.
Okay, all right. What about you, Doc?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. But when you were talking about to show the students that education is important and the parents to be engaged, I think one way I'm the how does it look type of person. Okay. I like to offer strategies. So this is how this looks when I'm dealing with parents, student teachers. And parents, I would recommend that parents set aside a place, a quiet space for their child to study and put a desk there, a table, chair. This is your sacred place. This is showing to me, it's showing the student that's how important your education is. And in many families, there may not be enough space. I had 5 children, right? But what I had recommended to parents to do, and it seemed to have worked for them, if you got a closet, put that desk or that table and chair in that closet. But that student needs to understand that your education is so important. I'm going to afford you this sacred space where you can go there uninterrupted, free of distractions, and do your homework or study. That's one way of showing our students how important education is. And it's engagement as well as a parent. I value it enough to give you this space. And no one is to enter that space except you and touch your stuff.
Yeah, most definitely.
I would just,
all right.
Yeah, I said I would just add the other piece to that is making sure that, as children grow up, that they're also aware of like enterprise and entrepreneurship. Yes. In addition to education, we know, bachelor's and college is not for everybody. So trades, editing, whatever, letting them know there's other ways outside of this. If you don't like this, if this doesn't work for you, here are some other options for you, and you can be just as successful.
Most definitely. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run through these other 3 because we running on that time. And so the last 3 are address concerns with solution-oriented mindset. So that means approaching challenges as a team rather than opposing sides. Focus on the problem solving instead of the blame, and keeps the student best interest at the center of discussions. Number 4, celebrate progress, not just grades, right? And so that's recognize that effort, growth, and improvements, not just the test scores. I was talking to someone yesterday and I was like, well, it's just another test. Don't make it seem so big. That's extra pressure. Just know I got it in me. All right. Encourage social and emotional development alongside with academics. Share positive updates with parents to reinforce motivation at home. And our last one is build trust through consistency and respect. So teachers show empathy and understanding toward diverse family situations. Parents respect the teacher's professional experience and classroom structure. And next, we know that foundation leads to trust, which represents a stronger and more effective partnership. And so those were some of our tidbits and our discussion points for how can parents and teachers work together for student success. Y'all, we got about 5 minutes left. I wanted to get to this. How will these school vouchers, they are pushing effect, all of you brought, especially for minority kids. He said, I'm just getting here. I don't know if you discussed that. And so, Farago, we did discuss that at the top of the show. And so I would definitely say go tune back. Once we get through, go make sure to get back into that because it was a good discussion on that in the beginning.
And perhaps we can bring it back. Doc, you think perhaps we can bring it back another time?
We can bring it back next time, Dr. Wise. You in the
Okay.
driver's seat too.
Sounds good.
Hey, hey. All right. So Supreme said the sacred space reminded me of a prayer room. I agree with that. Got that prayer closet. Let's go.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Amen.
Get out of here. Miss Catyra, any last words for us?
Just encourage you, if you have a dream, to go for it. There are people and resources to help you, and don't let anybody stop you.
What about you, Dr. Y?
Well, I want to say I enjoyed this. Thank you, Miss Polland, right? I learned a lot.
Yes.
I took a lot of notes, right? So I can grow from that. And thank you to Doc for having me. And I look forward to the next episode.
Look, it is
Thank
my
you.
pleasure. I want to say, y'all, we will go through, we got 12 weeks except for spring break. Google your map, because we're not coming out that week. I'm going to be somewhere else. I'll probably be at the rodeo. Y'all know it's rodeo time, so we'll get ready. Biggest thing is, if you have not, make sure you go in, subscribe, like, share this page. We have so much great content coming. Tonight was just the beginning. So once again, thank everybody for showing up, for coming through for us for episode 1 of 12. We will see y'all next week. So this is KT for KTTV signing out. 100.
This is Darnell with Broadcast Houston.
This is Dr. Tamara Beckford.
Hey, this is Candace.
This is London Underwood.
This is Kirsten Bass with Inner City Greens, and you're watching
Y'all are now tuned in to
KTTV.
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 KT